And the Mayor of Greater Manchester has called for calm after video footage was released, which appears to show the moments before a police officer kicked a man in the head at Manchester Airport. Andy Burnham has asked people to step back and allow the authorities to complete their investigations. He joins us now. Good to have you with us, Mr. Burnham. What do you think this footage...
You're welcome. Good morning.
...this new footage tells us that we didn't know before?
Well, it is an extremely difficult situation, but at least this morning it has moved forward a degree because people now have a fuller picture. And it confirms what I said last week, which is that this is a situation that escalated very quickly. It's a very violent situation, issues on both sides. The key now is that we allow the two investigations, the two parallel investigations, to complete their work. So there is one investigation ongoing into a number of assaults, and that is a police investigation. 4 people are on police bail, and there is a second investigation into police conduct. So it's really important now. You know, lots of people have had their say on this very complicated situation in recent days. We understand that, but it's now important that we go forward from here with those two investigations so all of the right actions can be taken as a result.
It's an absolutely fair point to allow the investigation to run its course, but people want answers. There are tensions as a result of this. When will we know? When will the investigation give us answers as to what happened?
So I do understand that frustration, and I felt it to a degree, because when you have footage that is subject to a potential criminal trial, it can't just be put out into the public domain. But you know, the world in which we live is that some video emerges and other video can't be released. It's obviously a really complicated situation. But you know, you can't put a timeline on these things. These are careful considerations that have to be made now about the whole incident. You know, looking at the whole thing, start to finish, and then the right judgments made as to the accountability for what happened.
But as the Mayor overseeing Greater Manchester Police, have you been given a steer? Have you asked for it? Is it days, weeks, months? Just a rough timeline?
Well, I've said as quickly as possible. Obviously, given the huge interest in the whole issue, and you know, I think everyone could see that there was a public interest in that. But you can't really put a timeline on investigations. They take as long as they take. At least now there is a fuller picture, as I said at the start, in the public domain, and it is, as I was saying last week, much more complicated than was first made out. You know, we live in a world where something appears, a fragment, and everybody rushes to judgment, and then another fragment, and then everybody makes a judgment on that. It's very difficult, but now we should now accept that there are two parallel investigations. They've got to be allowed to complete their work, and then a line eventually will be able to be drawn. But as I say, there are serious issues here to be investigated on both sides.
Do you think the anger within the community and the public backlash that we saw initially would have been as intense had people seen this latest footage and knew that it wasn't isolated, what they had seen initially?
Yes, I suppose if the whole picture had been put out straight away, it would have enabled people to make a judgment, a more rounded judgment. But as I say, it's not as easy as that, because sometimes footage will be used in a later trial potentially, and it can't just be put out because that can have an impact on any potential proceedings. So it's why in this social media age we are kind of living now with situations where, you know, a partial picture is presented and everyone takes a sort of if you like, a side about that, you know, a very kind of absolute position one way or another, and that's what we often see now. Life is more complicated, isn't it? The truth often lies in between, and I did say that last week, and I did also say to people, look, be careful. This isn't as simple as it looks. You know, time is needed here. There is a very complicated situation that has issues for all those involved, and you know, to some degree, I think some people heard that. But you know, here we are where we are, I think at least we've got that fuller picture this morning. Let's allow the investigators to do their work and then bring the right actions as a result of those investigations.
Mr. Burnham, you mentioned the social media impact, and there is a danger that in the absence of verified factual information, in that vacuum, rumour, speculation fills the void, isn't there? Is that in your mind as this investigation, as you say, takes an unknown amount of time?
Yes, it certainly is. I think there's learning for everybody from this, because this is a phenomenon of our times, isn't it? That video will emerge from whichever source, but it will go out there, and everyone then becomes an expert on it and says, "Oh, I know exactly, and this is it," and makes a sort of absolutely unequivocal judgment on the back of it. But life, as I just said a moment ago, isn't like that. The risk is, of course, you get consequences from those judgments and that furore that builds, and that can have impact in communities. It can have an impact on public order. The thing I would say is politicians really shouldn't be part of that. That rush to judgment, but we have seen that this week on both sides of this, and those people in positions of responsibility, and in my view, shouldn't be adding to the sort of the clamour and the hype around an incident. So I do think we have to learn from this, and from our side as well. Everybody has to step back and learn from this. These situations can be quite dangerous. People's careers are on the line in these situations. I think we all feel for the police officers who were injured as a result of what happened, and there's a whole lot of stuff that kind of comes together, and it's really important, I think, learning from this, that we do it better the next time. It's not possible always for all of the video, by everything, to be in the public domain because of the nature of criminal investigations. But somehow, I think certainly politicians need to lead from the front in not adding to the public furore.
OK. Andy Burnham, Mayor of Greater Manchester, thanks very much for joining us on Breakfast this morning.